blue, I crawled along the wreckage of what now is gone. Back to you to fight another day. I'll go on and on and on and on. I'll face it, the demons I created with every last part of me. The pain will fade and I'll go on and on and on and on. Black and blue, I crawl to you. Black and blue, I crawl to you.
We're alive.
Hello, YRC fans, or if we have fans. This is the
I
20.
think we have just people that tolerate us at this point.
Yeah, people who tolerate us. That's a good word. This is episode 27, which is about COVID-19 and how it ruined lives. And surprising.
Before we begin, we just want to say we believe that COVID-19 is a very serious thing, and we are not here to put forward any claims otherwise or to disparage any scientific evidence.
Absolutely.
We're just telling our experiences instead.
Okay, GH, you go first.
I think like the worst thing I can say about COVID, at least for me, is this one habit I've picked up that's never ending. Chris, like he's not an anti-vaxxer by any means, but he is an anti-masker. He has this shitty, flimsy excuse. It's like, oh, I can't wear a mask because when I wear my glasses with the mask, they fog up. Like too fucking bad. You can just get like that special anti-fog stuff on the glasses and we're just fine. Or maybe if you wore your mask correctly, it wouldn't happen. It's supposed to pinch around the nose and cover your nose and your mouth. But like Chris always wants to look for any excuse he can get to not wear a mask. And when he does wear the mask, he never covers the fucking nose. And it's it affects me by association. It also affects my risk of getting infected because I don't know if he has it. But like ever since the vaccine thing happened, when they started letting people in without masks that were vaccinated, he lied about his vaccination to multiple businesses multiple times just so he can get in without a mask. And
Yeah.
I'm just like sitting there like I'm just sitting out of distance, not associated with him. And it never fucking ends. It just never fucking ends.
I'm guessing this. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that Mr. No Dick has no mask and acts like a dick because he has to wear a mask.
Yeah, like fucking like he loves the local card shop in our area. You know why? It's like they pretend to care. It's like the sign on the front's like, you must wear a mask, but if you don't wear a mask, we're not going to ask any questions about your medical inability because of HIPAA and shit.
Oh, really? I'm guessing the laws of Michigan are a little bit different.
As far as ordinances go, yeah. In fact, for a long time, we were like, even with everyone like slowly reopening, we were the only state in the Midwest to have restrictions at one point. But then we got rid of those too. But there are some leniences. Like now we can go around, not wear a mask. It don't fucking matter. But the businesses are still allowed to enforce their own mask rules. So I still have to wear a mask. So vaccinated or not, I still have to wear a mask to go in places like Rite Aid and some other stores like the pawn shop. But like that's fine because like better safe than sorry. But like Chris, like he either skips the mask because he doesn't care, Or he wears the mask, but he leaves the nose exposed, which kind of defeats the purpose of a mask.
Oh, yeah. So,
It's like his nose is so big poking out from the mask. It's like that's where his penis went.
honestly, that just doesn't. That's not a big surprise, but is that it?
It never fucking ends because I hate having to go around with a fucking biohazard and fucking risk getting embarrassed or getting myself killed just because I want to go out and do something. But I have no choice because he's the only person in the neighborhood that'll drive me places. Makes me question how much I value our friendship with him.
Yeah. So, okay, so
Your turn.
buckle up, buckle your fuckle, because it's gonna get long. So my story was, my story is that okay, March 2020. I'm in my college
Mhm.
class, and I noticed the college looked deserted. And I'm thinking, what's going on? And then I I remember the last thing I did on college campus was I went to the Burger King that was in the cafeteria. I bought a Bacon King. Then I took an Uber home. I remember the Uber being scared shitless, telling me to wipe my hands. I didn't know what was going on. Then I remember going into work the next day at CVS, and I was horrified because I work in the cleaning supplies aisle, and all of it was gone. Everything. So
Oh
then,
shit.
yeah, people were rushing in by boatloads, and they didn't give me a mask that shift because, yeah, like seriously, there were like 50 people in the store trying to find things, and I kept having to say, "Sorry, we're out." And then, yeah, and then I went home expecting it to be not that big a deal, but then spring break came, and then the whole world went to shit. This was the middle of the March. Everything was going
Right.
down, and this would change my life forever because I had to finish my final semester of college at home where I relax and actually put my feet up and get on my computer, my Nintendo Switch, where I try to forget about the troubles of school. And I had to bring that trouble home for the yeah, and
Wow.
now there are other layers to this for the fact that for some reason I wasn't as terrified as my parents with my whole. But here's the thing, I'm extremely asthmatic. This illness could kill me in one night if it had the chance. But I followed safety precautions. But I wasn't really worried much about myself. I was more worried about my parents and my sister. Now this is gonna get sad because I graduated college in May 2020, which it felt nice that I actually accomplished 2 years of college, but it doesn't feel like it because I didn't have a ceremony, just like the rest of the world, which makes me not special in the fact that when I graduated high school last year, I didn't feel special because the rest of the world didn't get to graduate high school in person. But here's the thing.
Hmm.
They had to suffer through high school 4 years. I had to suffer through high school 8 years.
8 years?
Yep. All the way from 2012 to 2020. Because I went to
Would you
a...
do each grade twice?
No, here's the thing. My high school is a vocational school for the disabled kids. They let you
Okay.
stay till you're 22. I originally wanted to leave when I was like 19 or 20, but the school offered me something. They said, we will pay for you to go to Salem State College, but you have to stay till you're 22. So I'm thinking, might as well have a college experience for 2 years. So that was the deal. And unfortunately, you know what it's like to see kids graduate at the end of every year for 7 years and then not get to walk down that aisle yourself? Fucking
Right.
hurt. Makes you feel like that you didn't deserve all that teaching. You didn't deserve to be on top. But the good sides are back in episode 25 where I talked about my school stuff. So if you really want to see the good stuff about that, it's in that episode. But here's the other issue is that but there is one silver lining that happened during May. I got my Lenovo laptop that I'm talking to you on right now. And boy, that was the best day ever. I can finally do all the games that I wanted to do. Now, this is like I said. I worried a lot about my family. I worried about my sister and her son, and I worried because here's the funny thing. Every doctor in Massachusetts was put to work because we're the medical state, and because of that, every other doctor that wasn't working on COVID, there practically was none. Like, if you needed to see a doctor for something else, you were not a luck. Plus, you had to risk getting COVID by going into the hospital to meet the doctor.
Reminds me of Markiplier.
Now, here's another thing. This was back when my dad was still alive. Now, my dad has always had a smoking habit, and I always feared he would go outside without a mask and smoke. I was always afraid that he was gonna get sick. He was gonna die of COVID. Little did I know back in March that wouldn't be what made him pass away. That would be his own addiction that eaten him up since he was a kid. COPD and emphysema. That was the
Wow.
thing that killed him. But it's still hard to have your father die while a pandemic is still going on. And it even hurts that you can't even have a mask.
You want to
Yeah, and it hurts
ahead.
that you can't even have a mass for him. Like you can't even.
You want to talk about? You want to talk about fucking dead relatives? My grandpa died. I don't know if it was some sort of I forgot what it was, but like
the
something
guy
to do with
that
his lungs.
yeah, the guy who narrated the Danny D show. The one.
Yeah, like it's like I do not respect the shit that Danny D did in the show in general, but like I respect that he gave my grandfather a job.
Yes, honestly, your grandfather seemed like a nice guy in that. It's just I hate that he was being undermined by that psycho actor.
Yeah, like I'll say this, like toward the end of his life, Grandpa has said some weird shit politically that I'm not gonna necessarily get into, but that aside, I knew that he was still a cool guy, and especially when I saw him do the karaoke gigs at the pubs, cause it's like he had what everybody wanted, and he knew how to get the crowd like pumped.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
one of those things where
Like,
like It's cruel. I know it's the worst thing to have a relative die of COVID, but it's just there's something about having
Like,
Okay, you said something. Yeah,
for
like
me, it was like really hard because like the last few times I could have talked to him, or I could have visited him, or I could have done any sort of contact with him to make sure he was all right in these trying times. I couldn't because like either I was afraid I'd say something to tick him off, because this is coming from a Trump supporter. He is. But not only that, but there was also the social distancing thing. I didn't want to like get close to him, but now I wish I did.
yeah, the problem with my father is he was getting more and more nasty. Turns out COVID being locked up inside made him even more crazy. There was times he was attempting to smoke in the house, and that would have gotten us evicted. That's forbidden
Like, like
because
fucking what's sad is like mine was my grandpa wasn't as crazy as the grandpas you read about on the Reddits, saying shit like, oh, COVID's not real, but in the same breath saying you're trying to infect me with COVID. He wasn't that crazy, but even still, like, there was some shit that about COVID that prevented me from trying to make things right. Like Grandpa could have got the vaccine while he was admitted, but his wife said no.
yeah, like I understand. Like but it was still heartbreaking that that both of our relatives had died in the in the pandemic that wasn't necessarily COVID. It's
Yeah, like so much shit going down, and then this is how it ends.
Now there are other layers to this, and the fact that my sister actually came back to depend on me and my mother more, and she it got so it actually brought us together as a family better. And all my sister has to do is wait the 90 days, and then she can finally have that divorce. Come back.
Like, I'll say this, like, despite like one thing I regret is that this thing created a rift between me and my brother that will probably never fully heal. But it did bring me closer to both my uncles, so that's a good thing.
Another thing you have to consider is that the wire that the opponent, what's the word? The COVID actually negatively impacted our group per se, because
Mm-hmm.
yes, we have to talk about that. The COVID was one of the reasons why.
Like,
Yeah, the COVID was one of the reasons why Ace left.
he was a doom scroller.
Yes, exactly. The COVID was the straw that broke the camel's back for him.
Like, I mean, like, I will say it affected all of us kind of badly. Like, it hasn't affected the way we do our show or the way we conduct ourselves, like, as a group, but individually, we're all kind of a fucking mess.
Yeah, and that's why I had tried to get better myself with a life coach so that I can actually work on my problems and but the problem is that I all of this COVID just made me feel like why? What is my purpose? Why am I still going? And also, I may have talked about the beginning of CVS, but let's talk about what happened with that front real quick. After the horror in March, I took a leave and I came back in June, at the end of June 2020. Everything was the same. You had to wear a mask constantly, of course. That's a no-brainer. That's just the simple fact that it was all the same. Like, every single, my aisle was always empty. It never got better. I never saw a lick of toilet paper or a lick of Lysol in the crates that I unloaded and put on the shelves. And people would come in asking, "Where's the sanitizer?" And I'm telling them we don't have any. It broke my heart that I had to tell them all that. I was even one customer who was frantically looking for it. I say, "I'll check in the back." There was none in the back. But time and time again for weeks, so many customers were scared. They come in, they try and. I remember this one customer. He didn't wear a mask, and he wouldn't leave. He wouldn't exit the store, so they had to call the cops on him and tell him to get the fuck out of here. You can't come in here without a mask. Honestly, sometimes I wonder why I'm alive. Go through all of this, and I didn't catch it at all. Especially with my track record.
Hey,
Annual pneumonias.
One question. One question. You said you had to deal with these customers and having to tell them that what they were looking for wasn't there. Like, did it just break your heart having to do that, or did the customer also kind of, lash out as a result?
Oh, it broke my heart. Like how the feeling of I can't help people even at my job.
I mean,
when you
like,
work,
at least the customers were cordial about it. I'll admit. I hope, were they?
Well, except for that one guy that they had to call the cops. Everything, everyone else they had fear in their eyes. Like, you can see that they were just frantically trying to find some for their families or for their loved ones. Like, that's the stuff that gets me. How the worst part of retail is not being able to please your customers.
Yeah. I mean, as sad as it is that you had to go through that, at least you kind of had a bit of a lucky thing. Like, you didn't have people yelling at you. You didn't have people try to wrestle you to the ground, beat the crap out of you, or call you racist or any other name under the sun. There's people that had it worse, but, like, it's still really sad that you went through that. And that is something I will admit right now. That is very sad. And I'm glad you told us that today.
Yeah, and there are good things that came out of the pandemic. Like, me and my mother were able to help my sister get out of her old house and then get her out of the next house because apparently she inadvertently moved into an illegal apartment. So what happened was we had to help her get the fuck out of there. And we moved him into one of our apartments here at my apartment complex. Now she's my neighbor. And so it's until that we
nice.
Yeah, so we got her into a safe place, a safe haven, where she's not, and where she can actually afford. And she can save up until she might want to get another house.
Yeah. I mean, yes, that's another thing I'll admit is that COVID did help bring more parts of our family together. Like, before my downstate uncle came up to look after my upstate uncle, I was pretty much the delivery boy for my upstate uncle's grocery items. It was nice to talk to him again. It seemed he was doing better with his addiction that I will not disclose at this time, but it's like he used to mumble a lot when he talked, but now I felt like I could finally understand him better.
And no, it just Honestly, I wouldn't have survived COVID without this group. That's the damn truth. And that's
Like,
kind of one reason
if
why
it wasn't for,
yeah. If
I
it
can't
wasn't,
even pin it down to any group of people. Honestly, there's this group, and for me, it's this group, and there's also one of Digi's groups, and then there's my local friends, and my mom and dad were kind of neutral. Like, sometimes they helped, and sometimes they made things worse.
I just remember how scared my mother was. That, like, she feared for my life, and she feared for my father. Like, it's just at that point in my father's life, he just didn't care anymore. He didn't give a shit about what he was doing. 'Cause the truth is, the doctors knew he was dying very soon. It's just they didn't tell us until like late, like early June.
Yeah,
Yeah, because he's been on
I
death
mean,
row.
like usually.
Like, he was on
Yeah.
death row since
Sorry.
2010. Like he
Wow.
Imagine being ready, close to death for 12 years. That's what my father was.
Reminds me of that one show I keep seeing where they have that one guy that like is dying, and like there's this chick who's like blood type match for a kidney transplant, and they have to make sure that not only he's healthy so that he doesn't die before he gets the new kidney, but also she's healthy so that she can give him the transplant. And it was really critical shit.
I just missed. It's not. It's a little bit much because, like, some things you can never get back. Yeah, yeah, but it's just about trying to fix your life so you can go to the future. I mean, in Massachusetts, we finally have you can wear your mask out except for in businesses, sort of like they're like I can have my mask off wherever I am except for at my job where it's mandatory,
Um,
which makes sense
yeah,
because it's a
for
pharmacy.
me, um, yeah, for me, it's like you can have a mask. You can have no mask anywhere except for businesses that strictly say you need one, and there's also some places where a mask is required no matter what, like public transport and hospitals and prisons and airports,
I
doctor's offices and shit.
I just it's gonna be nice when things start to, because by the fall they're probably going to have an annual COVID vaccine up and running.
A booster, you say?
Yeah, a booster, like something that actually lasts longer. Honestly, this conversation just
Like,
makes like this conversation just
like
makes
this isn't one of those things that we can this isn't one of those things we can just will away, like the common cold or AIDS or tetanus. Like all we
yeah
can do is just like keep our vaccinations updated on the regular, and we should be fine.
AIDS. I gotta sing that song. But full blown AIDS, not HIV, but really full blown AIDS. God,
I'm
I,
sorry, I wish it was something less serious.
yeah. And then,
But it's AIDS. You've
you
got
got the
the
AIDS. Honestly, I think that's
AIDS.
that's I believe that's all that's good enough for this, because it's not. There really isn't that much that could be said without it getting super deep. And honestly,
I mean,
it's
like,
the
I do have an idea.
the bottom line is
Like,
it's in the
I could
past.
go on Reddit and we can if we want to extend it, I could probably go on Reddit and read some COVID horror stories and we can react to them.
Honestly, I want to talk about who we think should have died from COVID. You want to know why I think?
Trump.
No, I'm gonna have to. I need to mention him again. Logan 30 Acre.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Logan Paul.
Yeah, well, SML. If, for what you don't know, the SML cast all got COVID. And here's the funny thing. Logan has a gigantic history of needing to take medicine and having a poor immune system. I'm thinking,
Like,
yes,
I'm
yes,
almost good.
we can finally get rid of this guy, and maybe the empire will collapse and Jeffy will go away. That didn't happen.
Like, I'm almost tempted to screen share Cool Cat Fights Coronavirus so we can react to it, but Lord knows Derek Savage probably has an iron grip on that DMCA shit.
Honestly, that's what kind of. Yeah, but don't worry. CoolCon 2, the CoolCon 2 will eventually come next year, because that's what the notice said. Because next year I'm actually going to
Yeah,
attempt to
that's
recreate.
not real.
Yeah, and that'll be on your chopping block. It's just
Well, it'll be censored on my chopping block, but yeah.
honestly, I have no more hint. The point I'm making is that that took on a different toll. Yeah, let's talk about some creators and yeah, first I'm going to talk about that got COVID. I'm going to talk about Logan first real quick. That actually had a negative impact because here's the thing. Everyone got the COVID except for Chris, the guy who plays the Brooklyn guy, and Cody, who were some of the best characters in the whole thing. Some of the redeeming factors, if you will. And once he left for like 8 months, and like from like March to August of 2020, Logan had a gigantic decline because here's the funny thing. When you take one of the actors away from a show that they're usually in, the show can cripple faster than a guy with polio and what's the other word? Uh no, not phlebitis, arthritis. Yeah, someone with a big mix with polio and arthritis. That's how fast you can cripple a show. All you have to, like, here's another instance. Let's say you take Tom Kenny away from SpongeBob. That see how fast that could be a problem. So that's kind of what happened to Logan because everyone else got COVID except for Chris because he was taking care of family and Logan had to find substitutions. Terrible substitutions. His brother Lance had to voice a ton of new characters and if you don't know who Lance is Jeffy and Goodman and Shrek and Black Yoshi, and this is just bottom line. Logan got the COVID and didn't suffer. The only penalty he suffered is the loss of his best actor for a little while. So who else suffered? You know any other YouTube channels or stars that suffered with the COVID before I turn this into another plush episode?
I'm thinking, but I'm mostly looking at some COVID stuff on Reddit to see if there's anything interesting.
Yeah, because it can't just be Logan that was negatively impacted by the COVID. Yeah, like
Let's see. Yeah. Oh, here's something. From Kids Bob Karen, ask Reddit. People of Reddit, what is the dumbest person you saw or heard during COVID-19 within a store?
Okay.
Let's see. This is just a short one. Um, an anti-masker said masks infringe their rights. Their rights to what? To die as quickly as possible?
Now yeah. So we had a. Can you search Reddit and say YouTubers who suffered the most during COVID? That's because I already
COVID
talked.
YouTubers.
Yeah, because I already talked about Logan. We're in SML. So there's got to be more.
Let's see here.
More Chris.
Let's
Honestly.
see. Blah, blah, blah. YouTube banned an anti-abortion channel for COVID conspiracies. One of his videos featured a doctor who called the pandemic, quote, the greatest hoax ever perpetrated on an unsuspecting public. That is gross. Just no.
Exactly. So what I see
Hold on.
is
Let's see. YouTube. Keep talking. I'm searching still.
yeah. So like I said, we're looking for YouTubers who kind of suffered in one way or another during the pandemic, whether it be loss of actors, loss of funding, forced to retire, like that type of stuff. So far, we just talked about SML. We also kind of talked about Ace. How basically he just grinded to a dooming halt and became like, oh, the world's gonna fucking die. Ugh.
Okay. The first thing I'm seeing is a general like I don't know whether to call this greedy or interesting, but like basically for an early period of time, COVID was considered a controversial subject. Meaning, if you talked about COVID in your video, you would lose monetization. Like, on the one hand, I'm like, wow, like that. What does that mean for the people trying to wish people well or give tips? But at the same time, it's like, who the fuck cares?
Honestly, yeah. Like, you need to can also consider the fact that COVID did help some people in the way that like maybe it helped them motivate them to do some work. Like I know that I'm gonna say like there was this one Pokemon YouTuber named Jay Rose. COVID actually helped him make some of the best content he's ever made because he did Pokemon solo challenges. Because he only did a few before the COVID happened, but once he started doing a ton of them, and he got a lot of traction. So that's evidence of COVID actually being a little bit beneficial, forcing.
Hi guys,
Hey, Nick, what
You
are you
want to
doing?
talk about
just sitting
you want to talk
outside.
about COVID
You're
beneficial?
sitting outside for what?
Yeah, taking 5.
Oh, you want to quickly mention a
All
quick?
right.
Before you
Yeah, the topic is COVID horror stories. You want to weigh in?
want to tell one story, or you do not have time?
I don't have the time. Are you guys gonna
Okay.
be on at around 11 or something?
Yeah, maybe. We don't know that yet.
Probably not. I don't know. I'm
Well, are
probably
you gonna
tired.
are you gonna show up for
Yeah.
tomorrow, 7
Yeah, I
p.m.?
have tomorrow off.
Yeah,
Like-
so 7 p.m. You're gotta be there for the big Metopia episode.
Yeah,
that you
yeah, I can
paid
It's
do
a
that.
for.
recording session anyway.
Yeah, it's recording. so it's kind of different.
Uh,
It's different in the way.
but anyway.
So back
But
where
anyways, Tix, you want to talk about COVID being beneficial? One good thing I can say about it is it made it easier for us to get in touch with our favorite celebrities. Like a lot of people that they talk with celebrities, they started doing them over Zoom on TV.
and also, but there are also other things where
Work's been way easier for me
Yeah,
since COVID hit.
yeah, and apparently in a recent episode of SpongeBob was banned for being sort of quarantine related.
Yeah. Like pretty much with the climate, with the tone of the episode and the climate we were in, it was like too soon.
Yeah, another thing is just it's funny how when I made the Powerpuff Reboot collab and I was binge watching that horrid reboot, there was literally an episode called Quarantine. And that's why it's in the collab.
You want to talk the reboot? Have you seen the episode Muscle Cup?
Yeah, that's the one that was also in there. See,
You're gonna fucking barf, dude. I was gonna say, did that make you barf? It probably made you barf.
Yeah, it literally made me nauseous when I watched. It was in the collab, didn't you see? Like, I had one person do it because, like, that deserved.
Oh yeah, I think I nearly threw up when I saw that scene.
Yeah, like the fact that like they thought that was a good idea, and yes, it's now turning into Cartoon Network cartoon again. So this is just the issue.
All right, guys, I think I gotta get out. I'll
Okay,
hopefully
Nick.
see you guys at 11. I hope.
Okay, Nick. Just
Alright, yeah. Alright, I'm gonna say, like, the fact that we keep changing topics, I think it kind of says something about, like, what goes through our minds when COVID's happening. Like, we're trying to pretend that everything's fine. We're trying to do literally anything else. Like, I mean, hell, around the time the pandemic started, Nintendo released Animal Crossing. Now, normally I would not give praise to Nintendo for anything, especially after all the shit I talked about in the Nintendo episode, but, like, releasing Animal Crossing at a time when people needed Animal Crossing the most, that was fucking good, I'll admit.
also the simple fact that okay, not Nintendo. Yeah, also I'm trying to think like what's in the word. Okay, like yeah, it's just another thing that the pandemic brought to me was my new hobby, binge watching, which I binge watched a ton of shows.
Imagine, like, all the people, like, that started binge watching, like, since coronavirus started. They're either still binge watching today or they just now stopped. Like, how many of them do you think are still wearing the same underwear that they wore when they started?
I don't know, like 20%?
I think that, like, in fact, the way I feel like the stereotype of my generation would react to the pandemic ending would be the same way they would react to the pandemic beginning. Like, they'd be sitting there in their basement playing their video games, and people ask them about the pandemic, and they'd be like, "There's a pandemic?"
Yeah, like that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to forget. I remember there were all the food shortages.
No. It ain't like they were trying to forget. It's just that they were already social distancing, isolating, playing video games, binge watching shit. They probably didn't know or care what was going on out there.
Honestly, that's me as well. Like I don't like it hurts less. Especially with all the stuff that happened to us. The problem is things in
Like-
that like it's not the pandemic itself that hurts you. It's what surrounds the pandemic.
Yeah. For me, it's like having seen all these people in isolation from different walks of life and different political beliefs come together for like a grand service, like a funeral or something. You get to see the absolute best and absolute worst of humanity. Like,
It's
not only it's
Yeah.
like fucking what. It's like fucking. I had no idea that Grandpa was a Q supporter, and I also had no idea that my brother thinks Biden touches children. But whatever. Like, they're my family. They're what we got. It's sad I don't have my grandpa anymore, but I made things work with him because we can see eye to eye on the important things like music and being a good person and making people happy, and also computers. Jay and my brother, that whose name starts with a J, but I'm not going any further than that. My brother, not so much.
Yeah. It's
It's
dumb.
like the difference between it's my brother's like my dad in that when I say things that they don't like, they'll get defensive and argue with me about it. The difference is that like despite both of them giving me a vibe that they could totally kill me, my brother's the only one I fear actually might. I know my dad wouldn't, because like he knows how to control himself better. My brother, not so much.
Honestly, do you think we should just cut the cord now, or do you have anything else to say?
Um, we're at 45 minutes, so unless you want me to look at Ask Reddit some more, I think we can do a wrap up.
Okay, bottom line, COVID, it exists. It ruined our lives. It helped some people. It hurt some people. Everyone's probably sick of talking about it now, but
When the chips are down and the backs are against the wall, when you're about to see the light fade from the eyes of your loved ones, that's when you truly get to bear witness to the dark side of humanity. There are things happen I wish didn't happen, things I saw I wish I didn't see, but ultimately it gives me a more clear view that the world isn't like ready for me to come out and take it on with open arms. It's either indifferent or waiting for me with a shotgun.
exactly. You couldn't have said it better myself. Bottom line is that
All right.
you can't just. It's not. It'll it'll be better.
So anyway, that about does it for this SmackDown. Tune in Monday for Raw when Nick's gonna play the
More
video game.
Yeah, more Shoe RTX on, aka Mr. Krabs overdoses on ketamine too.
And next SmackDown, we haven't decided what it's going to be. We're either going to browse some actual subreddits or we're going to talk about Chuck E. Cheesy or whatever the fuck.
Okay. Oh, so tired. Okay, Audi. Okay,
And that
Audi
about
5.
does it, I guess.
Yeah, I'll pay. Audi
Yeah.
5000.
Thanks for watching. Yeah. Sorry the episode got weird, but that's how it is.
Let it down. I did it.